Tax attorney John Heyer here, and we're going to talk briefly about Checkbook LLCs. The landscape has changed. Few have recognized it. 2 years ago, a case came out of the tax court called McNulty. What happened? Mrs. McNulty had a Checkbook LLC, meaning that her IRA owned 100% of the LLC. The LLC had IRA money in its bank account. She was the manager and had complete control and access over the money. She used the money to go buy gold. She stored gold in the basement, which, by the way, I've been warning for years, don't do that. IRS caught up with her, went to court. The court said, listen, Mrs. McNulty, we know that you say you're a different person. This isn't Mrs. McNulty. This is Mrs. McNulty, manager of the LLC, which is a totally different human. And that human is allowed to hold gold for the IRA in the real Mrs. McNulty's basement. The tax court said, you're the same person. Single-member LLCs are ignored. Mrs. McNulty, the manager of the LLC, Mrs. McNulty, the human, are the same person. The human had possession of IRS assets physically in her hands, in the basement, the gold. Therefore, it was considered to be distributed from the IRA, and in her case, it was almost the entire IRA. But the case did not stop there. The Checkbook LLC industry has ignored this case, or dismissed it, because it keeps them from making money. There's an important subtlety here. I don't like it, but we have to discuss it. The court went out of its way to say, having control over IRA assets is contrary to the essence and nature of IRAs. What they're saying is you should not have direct control over IRA assets. That's distinct from a 401k. 401ks follow different and better rules. It's one of the reasons I prefer them. The court went on to say that even if you don't have physical possession over an asset, if you have what we call in tax parlance constructive possession, so you don't physically have it in your hands, but you might as well, that it is deemed distributed. What is constructive possession? It's an important concept. Checkbook LLC sellers should be talking about it, and they're not because they want to keep selling. The court said constructive possession is when you have complete and unfettered dominion and control over the asset. Complete, unfettered dominion and control. They said you don't have to abuse that control. You simply have to have that control. If you have complete and unfettered control or dominion over the asset is distributed from the IRA. You lose a tax shelter, and unless it's a seasoned Roth, you're taxable on the distribution. What's an example that concerns me? The way most Checkbook LLC operating agreements are written. Now be honest and ask yourself, honestly, do you have complete and unfettered control over the bank account? Could you write yourself a check? Not did you. Could you, if you wished, write yourself directly as the human a check? If so, I would say you have complete and unfettered control over the bank account. The tax court laid this language out as a set. Like in volleyball, they set the ball above the net for the IRS to come spike it. They invited the IRS to come say, if you have constructive ownership of assets, you have complete control, it's deemed distributed. I think we're going to hear more about Checkbook LLCs from the tax court. I don't think we're going to like it. I do think you need to be prepared. Want to learn a lot about self-directed IRAs and 401ks and write off one heck of a trip? Puerto Rico, April 20th and 21st. TaxReductionLawyer.com.